All righty. Good evening, everybody. So we are the Fordham Undergraduate Law Review. This is, kind of the spring semester. We're still gonna do some introductory bits because we have a lot of new people here. Over winter break, we had 80 new people sign up for our email list, which was absolutely phenomenal to see. So for those of you who are returning members, kind of the first 10, 15 minutes of this meeting is going to be stuff that you largely know, but about halfway through, we're going to transition into our topic selection forum, which is obviously something that you're all going to kind of participate in. So that's just kind of the brief outline for tonight's meeting. Yeah, and we're going to get into it now. So starting off with the introductory part, what is FULR? Well, we're an entirely student-run scholarly legal publication focusing on contemporary legal issues that are challenging the legal community at large. What we are designed to do is we are designed to help you research, develop, write, and argue a specific legal argument on a legal issue that interests you that is currently challenging the legal community. We help you throughout the entirety of the semester through our 13-ish different workshops and our 8 different stages of editing that will help you bring your note through. So we're here for you every single step of the way. You are allowed to write about any topic that you would like to, asterisk, as long as you are writing a legal argument. We'll get a little bit more into legal argumentation later, but we aren't assigning topics. We aren't telling you what to write about, and we're not telling you, asterisk again, how to argue. We'll get a little bit more into that specific bit a little bit later, but that's just generally what we're about. We publish one of these beautiful physical publications once per semester. A little clarification, they get physically published the semester after you write. So for everyone that wrote in the fall, your physical publications being printed ideally this semester. So just so y'all know. For those of you who are writing for our beautiful and equally as beautiful online publication, those are kind of published a little bit more timely, kind of just due to the nature that they tend to be a little bit shorter. We'll go over the distinctions between physical and online in a little bit. In addition to everything we do for our journal, we also host a variety of pre-law / law related events, and we have a lot of really great ones coming up this semester, thanks to Liz and Danielle. And those are open to all of you, regardless of whether or not you write. And additionally, all of our weekly meetings are open to you, whether or not you're writing. So feel free to come in, even if you're just building your own researching and argumentation skills, we'd still love to have you here.
Awesome. Thank you. So as this is the first meeting of the spring semester, we're going to reintroduce ourselves for those of you who are new. But for those of you that were here in the fall, I'd also love it if you guys could take note of what positions we do and what we kind of work at in FULR, because we will be having elections for this semester. So for those of you who are interested in applying or at least researching or in any capacity furthering your career in FULR, this would be a great thing to pay attention to. I am Thomas Murray. I'm a co-host along with John Katz here. I have worked in FULR roughly about 3 years. I started off as a staff writer into senior editor before I worked in layout editing, and a lot of cool publication changes within the journal. I then transitioned into the co-EIC position with Katz this year. I've been published writing in bankruptcy laws. For those of you interested in more financial related laws, I'd always be happy to be a help. I'm also a public accounting major for those of you in Gabelli. If you have any questions regarding law intersecting with business, I'd always be happy to help you out in terms of courses, career opportunities, so on and so forth.
What are you doing next year?
Oh, and I'll be working as an auditor at KPMG. So if you guys have any Big Four questions, especially Gabelli kids, shoot me an email or come down here and talk to me after the meeting. I'd be happy to help you out.
All right, thanks, Tom. So I'm Jonathan Katz. Typically, you'll hear the editorial board refer to me as Katz. So, just kind of something that's happened over time. I am an international political economy and economics double major, minor in philosophy. So not a poli-sci person, but I am going into the field of law post-graduation. I am a senior, ideally working at Swain and Moore LLP, the current #1 ranked law firm in the country. That is pending my application status. So, don't hold me to that, but working on going. I've been with FULR since its inception 4 years ago. For those of you that don't know, this is only our 4th year in operation as a student club and as a journal. Started as a staff writer, promoted to senior editor. Then I served as the business admin for 2 years before this year finally coming up and being a co-editor-in-chief, which is something I'd always wanted to do since freshman year. FULR has always kind of been my main thing, not really involved in a lot of other clubs, but generally my interest range in economics, international law, kind of like to do a little bit of everything. So if you ever want to talk about, either going into the field of law school admissions, or you have a really keen interest in international law and you'd like to discuss more, always open to business. Now I'm going to move it on to our 2 co-managing editors, Ahan and Anthony.
Hi, I'm Ahan. I'm a senior. I'm a double major in communications and French, but I'm on the pre-law track and I actually applied. That's a good idea. I applied to law school last month, so I'm in the process of that right now. And if you have any questions about that, feel free to come to me afterwards. And I have written twice for the law review. I wrote for the print publication. I think it was in the last slide and I think it's right there now. Yeah, for last fall, but I also wrote for the online publication last spring. I'm the co-managing editor. That means with Anthony, we manage the senior editors. We host senior editor workshops, and we also just help generally make sure that the publication is running smoothly. My interests in law relate to both human rights law, entertainment law, and if you have any questions about any of those, you obviously reach out to me. You know where to find me. Thank you.
Guys, I'm Anthony. I'm the other co-managing editor. I'm a junior majoring in political science. I started out as a senior editor, then last year became the executive online editor. So I did lots of websites, later helped work on the citation generator that hopefully some of you will find useful. And currently, of course, I am the co-managing editor. My interests are primarily in immigration law, as well as more recently in New York appellate law. I interned for a year with ICE OPA, which is the directorate of ICE that prosecutes the removal of undocumented non-citizens. So if you ever are interested in learning about precisely how ICE works, what kind of tactics they adopt in terms of prosecuting non-citizens, what kind of focus they bring to the exercise of prosecutorial discretion, absolutely you should talk to me about that. And yeah, we'll be hosting a few great workshops for the senior editors, as Ahan alluded to, over the course of the semester, and I would highly encourage that senior editors attend, because we'll be, I think, based upon some of our experience with the notes that were submitted for the last publication cycle, we'll have more targeted feedback to help you along with the editing process.
Nick and Nick, if you'd like to go next.
Hi, everyone. I'm Nick Suit. I'm the current executive online editor. This is my 3rd semester in the position. So like Tom, I'm also in Gabelli. I'm a business admin major, and following graduation, I'll be working at the Bank of New York Mellon. So if you have any questions about the online blog, if you're interested in writing for it, or you want to reach out for more help for that, let me know. Or if you have any business law related questions, feel free to reach out to me.
Hi guys, I'm Nick Wolf. I've been a member of this club since my 1st semester freshman year. Now 2nd semester senior, so time's going by a bit too fast. But my interests are in climate and energy policy mainly, or just general environmental law. That's what I'm going to go into law school to study next semester. So if you have any questions or interests about that, please feel free to bring it up to me.
Hello, I'm Danielle Poole, and I'm the events coordinator for FULR. I've been part of FULR since my freshman year, and I am primarily interested in public interest law, especially criminal law. So reach out to me if you share those interests. And I'm a sociology major, a communication and culture minor, and an American Studies minor, and I'll be attending law school after graduation.
Hello, everyone. My name's Liz. I am also a senior. I'm a political science and sociology major with an American Studies minor. I am the business administrator. I've been a part of the law review since my freshman year. I started off as a staff writer, then worked as a senior editor, and was a business administrator assistant, and then now I'm the business administrator. So definitely worked my way up. I've written twice now for the publication. Once in I believe volume 3, and then in this volume actually. Yes, please take one. I'm also the president of the Pre-Law Society at Fordham. So if you ever have any questions about anything pre-law, please feel free, come ask me. Danielle's also on the Pre-Law Society e-board. And if you are interested in becoming the business administrator or joining our BAA program, please come and talk to me, because as Katz said, we will be running elections at the end of this semester.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, cool. Hey guys, I'm Olivia. I'm also in Gabelli, like half of us. I'm studying finance and business law and ethics. So just kind of like Tom is going the same route. I'm kind of want to go securities law route. But if you guys need any help with anything business law related, definitely reach out. It's certainly an interest of mine. And in terms of law reviews specifically, first semester last year, I was a staff writer and I wrote about racial covenants and housing deeds. So I'm also interested in civil rights and real estate if you guys are leaning for that path for writing as well. And then I was a senior editor the next semester, and now I'm the executive layout editor. So yeah, if you guys need anything, just let me know.
Perfect. Thank you to our lovely cast of FULR editorial board people. We are going to be hosting elections soon, so if any of our positions sound interesting to you, I totally encourage you to reach out early on to kind of discuss that. Or if any of us have an area of law or post-graduation thing that kind of interests you, totally encourage you to reach out as well. On our website, undergrad law review blog, it'll be linked later. We have an area for office hours. It's the same password as last year, FULR 2022, which we should change to FULR 2023 to be announced. That's the best way to reach us, or you can always reach us by email, which we will have later. Anyway, kind of moving along here, for those of you not familiar, this is the general writing and editing structure of FULR. At the very top, editorial board, and then, kind of the loose structure is EICs, co-managing, and then we also have executive as well as layout, business admin, and events coordinator. Then under that, there's kind of two distinct offices. For Liz, there's the business admin office, under which she employs the help of business administrator assistants. So that's what she was talking about earlier. If any of you are interested in business, we also kind of have that area. And then we also have senior editors, and then under them kind of staff writers. So staff writers are paired up with senior editors throughout the semester. Senior editors help work on the notes that staff writers prep, and senior editors will report directly to our co-managing editors, Ahan and Anthony. There is no restrictions, I guess, looking across different things. If you're a business admin, you can still write. There's a little bit of difficulty if you're a business admin and you also want to edit. Not for anything like, you don't prohibit it, it's just a lot of work. So just something to keep in mind. And then senior editors are allowed to write. The only thing is staff writers aren't allowed to edit, because, that's just kind of how we're not going to let you edit if we don't know that you know how to write first. So just something that to keep in mind as you go through. And we are going to be reopening senior editor applications for the semester. We'll have a little more information on that later.
So as Katz just touched on and I touched on a little bit before, first off, business administrator position. So what I do is I oversee the business side of the club, I guess, the administration side. So I make sure that our publications actually get printed and those actually like somewhat on schedule. I do the budget proposals as well as the operations packet so that our club has funding. I work with Danielle to organize events and just oversee any other backroom side of things, like doing the weekly email, things like that. And then I also oversee business administrator assistants. So anyone that's interested in the position, what you do as a BAA is you kind of work with me for any administrative aspects that we need to work on. So in preparation for the budget every semester, you help work on the budget line items to go over what everything costs for like our annual event of dinner with a lawyer, the printing of the publication, anything that needs to be funded, we need to make sure that we budget for and we get that money approved. You also help me with the operations packet and then any sort of other tasks we have going on, whether that be revamping our social media, formatting graphics, anything like that. So if you're interested in more of the administrative, I guess, so to say, business side of things, you could talk to me about my position if you're interested in it. We currently do have the BAA office technically filled, but if you're really interested in the position, definitely willing to take on more positions if we can talk about it. So you can feel free to contact me for that position, or if you're just generally interested in like what I do.
You want to get to the writing opportunities?
All right, so once per semester, we publish both an online and a physical edition of our note. They're two separate, you can't be in both, but concerning the physical, which is what I'm primarily in charge of editing, the writing process usually takes throughout the entire semester, and we're looking for notes that are like, 10 pages long, like plus or minus some, but we try and adhere to 10 pages long. We publish these in physical editions like here, and once every semester. We normally get them back like a couple months later. So from the last semester, hopefully we'll get those back to you by late this semester. So, but most importantly, and we'll discuss the details of this later on, the note must have an original legal argument. Now, all three of those words are critical to this. We've seen many notes that do not adhere to all of those, but we'll discuss more of the details on that later. But that's generally what we're looking for this semester.
For the other option, instead of writing for the print publication, is the online publication. So this is a little bit different from print, and that's usually around 4, 5, or 6 pages instead of 10 for print. So the writing process is determined by the writer. When I say that, I mean, we're still going to try to adhere to the print publication schedule, but it's a little bit more flexible in terms of the deadlines. So this is published each semester as well, like the print. And notably, the difference between print and online is it has to have an original legal argument, or it can be in a review of a historical legal issue, provide commentary. So if you want more information about what that means, just check out the online blog right now. There's a few examples of that.
And just some quick notes about that. For those of you that are new, that probably looks like a lot. We will say that it is a commitment, but it's kind of a commitment where we attempt to break it down as much as possible. So tonight / over the next week or so, you'll be working on your topic selection form, and then after your topic selection form, you'll receive feedback. You'll take that feedback, develop it into an outline, submit the outline, receive feedback on that. Then you will submit rough draft 1 and receive feedback on rough draft 1, submit rough draft 2, receive feedback on rough draft 2, then submit your final draft. We'll review your final draft. If we have any questions on it, it will also be edited then. Then it goes to our faculty advisor and then back to us for a final round of editing. So in this way, we try and make something which is a reasonable commitment. It's like one of those things where your professor says you can't do it in one night, and then you proceed to do it in one night. And you're like, okay, I didn't really need to do it. This, you actually you really can't really do it in one night. And generally we can kind of tell. But that's kind of the reason that we try to give you the entire semester, 4 months to write 10 pages. So we try and break it up as much as possible. We are available literally almost every hour, Monday through Friday for e-board office hours. And then you also have a senior editor who's designed to work specifically with you on your note throughout that entire process. So when you take that commitment and you break it up into all these little individual stages along the way, it makes it much more manageable. So for those of you that might have been a little turned off about what we originally said, just know we're here the entire way supporting you, breaking it up into small manageable chunks. Sorry to interrupt you, Tom.
You are all good. But yeah, Katz is making an excellent point there. This isn't a solo project. You're not by yourself writing for 4 months and then popping out with a piece at the end. There is going to be a series of check-ins, and there is a network to help you out, figure out what sources you should use, how do you want to develop your topic. I know throughout the variety of deadlines we've set, we've had writers change topics entirely, either in scope or address, go from print to online, online to print. There are rigid elements to the process, but we're here to make the best product we can make with you. And please don't feel like this is going to be an endeavor you're doing by yourself. Making a legal argument is pretty difficult, and we're looking to kind of craft that together and have something really nice by the end of it with your name on it. Additionally, thank you, Nick and Nick, for covering both print and online there. I'll just mention, you don't have to determine that very aspect tonight. We're going to have a variety of information put out to you guys through the resources we offer, just to help inform your decision. Typically, there's advantages with both. They're both excellent opportunities, and I wouldn't dissuade you from considering either. But to just keep things going here, for those of you that are new this semester, we offer a publication resources shared Google Drive, which is an excellent opportunity for you to access all of the related FULR style citation guide, a variety of other different resources, meeting slide decks. So if you end up having to miss a meeting, which is unfortunate, but we get it, we often will shoot out an email, I would say 2 days after, with a link on the shared publication resources drive to that slide deck, so you can try and catch up, ask questions, and figure out what you missed if you're pursuing that specific avenue. Additionally, the first deadline for this semester, for those of you that will be committing to writing, is going to be Sunday, February 5th. This will have the topic selection form where we'll be entering your indication, whether you're pursuing print or online, your thesis, among a variety of other elements to it. Believe me, the thesis you enter here is not necessarily the same thesis you're going to walk away with by the end of the process. This is more so a chance for you to develop your research and figure out where you're going with your topic. But moving forward.
Yeah, we'll get into a little bit more discussion about topic selection in a little bit. I'm gonna try and move us along here because I don't want to keep you here for the entire hour. Something quick that we've had to touch on in the past few years. We do have a masthead policy. So in the front of all of the FULR journals is kind of a recognition of your accomplishments. This is a masthead if you haven't seen one before. And our basic requirement is because, you know, our email list consists of nearly 800 people, which is a lot. So it's really not feasible to include all of those active members in our masthead. So generally what we're saying is that for this upcoming semester, for those of you that are part of the club, active members, if you attend at least 50% of our semesterly meeting, you will get your place in the masthead. We take care of all that, calculate it, make sure you're at your 50%, so on and so forth. However, we are asking that active writers and editors, so that's people who are actually involved in writing and editing during this process, attend nearly all of our semester meetings. The reason why we're saying that now is because we've had some experience in the past. People have missed some of the last few meetings, especially regarding argumentation that proved to later be a little bit detrimental to the quality of their note. So we're asking that this semester, if you're actively participating in the writing and editing process, that you attend as many meetings as possible.
For those of you wondering about this meetings, this is an excellent resource we came up with COVID. Of course, attendance for ROSA students is expected in person. I know you guys got a lot going on. However, we have a lot of different elements to our meetings that benefit people from being here in person. If you happen to catch COVID, you get hurt, you can't make it here, but you can still log into Zoom, shoot us an email, and we'll set you up and make sure that we have marked in our own attendance that you'll be coming on Zoom. Yep. But if you're a ROSA student, we expect you to be here in person on Tuesdays. If you're an LC student, we also understand it's a very long drive. Shoot us an email, just letting us know that you are going to be here via Zoom, and we'll mark it in. But otherwise, we generally expect you to be here in person.
Perfect.
All right, so you can find most of the resources you'll need in order to compose your note and or to edit other people's notes in our publication resources shared drive, which you can access through the QR code up there if you don't already have a link to it. So some of the key resources you should be looking out for and using throughout the semester are first, the Style and Citation Guide. We published last semester the 5th edition, containing the most recent updates to our modified version of the Blue Book. And we highly recommend both writers and senior editors look through, at the very least, the Supreme Court and Law Review article sections of the Style and Citation Guide, because those are the sources that are most commonly used. And they will save you a lot of time later on during revision when people have to go back and change your commas and your periods and italics and so forth. It may seem quite daunting. There are a lot of formats to learn, but there's a logic to them. And once you familiarize yourself with them, it's quite easy to recall them. Second, some of the e-board members from last year created a bunch of helpful videos on various aspects of the writing process that we published to our YouTube channel. You can access that through the little icon, I think in the upper left-hand corner of our website, or just also search for FULR on YouTube. If you can't meet with us for whatever reason, and you really just need some help on some area of your note, I would highly recommend referring to those videos first. Of course, when we're having workshops, weekly meetings regarding the writing process, we're going to have, I think, at least 4 writing workshops dedicated to, generally improving argumentation, your prose, how to write an abstract, what kind of things you should be focusing on, your conclusion, organizing your note by section and so forth. We're going to have senior editor workshops targeted towards that group, a workshop about how to use LexisNexis, which is going to be your primary tool for finding sources, and then also several workshops about how to cite according to our style guide. All these are very helpful, and again, we strongly encourage your attendance in person, just so you can, if nothing else, come ask us questions at the end and engage more actively with the various activities we'll be conducting. Last semester, we assigned senior editors around the outline phase. So we asked senior editors to give feedback on the outlines that writers provided. We're still working out the details of how that process will appear this semester. But we still want to assign senior editors to writers relatively early in the process to make sure they're familiar with the topics of their writers. Writers, of course, will heck of a lot of research into their topics, which can often involve very complex and niche areas of law. And so we expect senior editors to be just as familiar, right, in order to catch any perhaps holes in their argumentation, areas where they can improve, counter arguments that ought to be addressed. So senior editors should be on the lookout just to start working and collaborating with their writers pretty soon. And finally, please take advantage of office hours with us. We offer them throughout the entire semester. When deadlines approach, we tend to actually extend our office hours. You'll almost certainly find one of us available on any given day of the week, and you can access those, as was previously mentioned, through the website using the password FULR 2022 right now.
Moving on, as many of you have sat through this meeting in the fall, we're going to be moving into our topic selection element of the meeting. Now, for those of you that are new, you may have heard Nick mention there an original legal argument. Now, you might also be wondering, well, what is an original legal argument? I would say our publication primarily rests upon how members are going to engage with ongoing legal issues and how they're going to further a advocacy or argumentative-based stance interpreting current legal code, advocated legal changes, so on and so forth. This topic selection element to the meeting is mainly going to encourage you and help you figure out what kind of topic will you want to approach your writing this semester, what interests you, and what avenues you want to explore, and what resources we can provide you to reach those and kind of develop that final level deliverable that you'll be submitting Sunday, February 5th.
Now I'm just going to give a brief overview on choosing a topic. And the first thing to keep in mind when starting your research is where you should look for your sources. Now, obviously, you should be looking at reputable legal sources, and this could include SCOTUS blog, LexisNexis, Reuters, MyUCS, and many more. But you can also be taking inspiration from your law-related classes that you've taken, the internships you've held, or even just your personal interests. I would also recommend using the news, but just for inspiration. Like, for example, last spring, I wrote an article about Roe v. Wade. It was called like the impact of trigger laws, Arkansas's attempt at challenging Roe v. Wade, which, as you can imagine, ended up being extremely relevant. And that's why I actually urge you to not shy away from like hot button controversial issues, because sometimes those can be the most interesting ones to write about. So definitely look at the news and look at what sticks out to you. But again, at the end of the day, when you're compiling your research, you should be using reputable legal sources. News sources aren't legal sources. So SCOTUS blog, LexisNexis, Reuters, all of those. Now, just some important considerations to take into account. First, ask yourself if your topic is narrow enough. If it's too broad, either your argument will get lost or you just won't have enough time to finish it. Like when I looked at, Roe v. Wade, I looked at specifically Arkansas to make sure that it was focused and I could just talk about one aspect of it rather than cover the entire thing. And you can still extend it and connect it to other cases, but it's always important to narrow it in and focus on one thing at first. You should also think of if there are enough resources you can use and also what kind of resources you're using. Obviously, you need to be looking at case law and legislation, but law review notes can also be a really great resource, especially from actual law schools or even different undergraduate law reviews. But while you're doing that, remember that you have to be original. So don't choose something that too many people are writing about, and make sure that your argument hasn't been iterated in many different places or iterated at all, because then you're not really contributing anything new to the discussion. And again, I think that also has something to do with whether your topic is narrow enough, because if it's too broad, chances are it's going to overlap with someone else and your argument's not going to be original. And you also have to remember that you only have one semester to write this. And that's really important because, again, if your topic is too broad, it just won't happen. It's not going to happen. So make sure that you take that into account and understand how much research you're going to have to conduct and how much your note will, how many pages it'll be when you're actually writing it before you actually sit down to write it. And again, remember that you have to be contributing a viewpoint that is useful to the legal community. So that's why it's really important that you have to make a legal argument. And again, this is, I think, especially crucial for the print publication. Without a legal argument, your note won't be published. So make sure that it's taking a firm stance. Again, otherwise, if it's not, it's probably not going to be contributing a viewpoint that is useful to the legal community.
As Ahan and Anthony have talked about, some of you guys may not know exactly what you want to write about, and that's totally fine. It took me a very long time to figure it out. My dad gave me inspiration. I really didn't know. I wish I looked here. I definitely recommend, there's so many places you can look, one of which being our actual publications. Again, something I wish that I looked at, but I didn't. You should. Also watch our YouTube videos. I feel like I also didn't watch our YouTube videos, which put me in a precarious position. The SCOTUS blog is also a great resource, especially if you're looking obviously at Supreme Court decisions. The American Constitution Society, the split circuits, which every Sunday gives a different split circuit that's happened throughout the week. And also previous classes, if you're in legal framework or anything like that, and law-related internships as well. There's also, as Ahan talked about, one of the biggest places of inspiration for me, at least, was different law reviews like Harvard, Yale, you name it, Fordham. There's hundreds and hundreds of law reviews out there, and they provide so much valuable information. And yeah, they, again, cannot emphasize enough, look at law reviews. And yeah, if you guys are kind of tinkering on a subject or aren't sure about a source being reliable, just reach out to us. I know it seems like we're like scary or something. At least I thought I was scared of you guys. We're your age. Just reach out. And yeah, if any other sources, you could go to our the publication resources as well to look for other sources of inspiration as well. And the news, of course, but beware.
One last note on sources. If you are trying to pull up an article, law review article, case decision, and you are having trouble accessing it, or you encounter a paywall, shoot us an email, look at the publication resources shared drive. Chances are Fordham's library database offers it for free. We don't want you guys paying actual money out of pocket to be researching your articles here. And chances are there's going to be a free way to access that. Nexus Uni is our favorite, and I think the highest one we advocate for in terms of research. But there's plenty of other avenues. We can get more into detail as we go into the semester with other workshops. Just know that if you're encountering a paywall right now, please don't buy a $99 subscription. That would be quite regrettable. Anyway, here's some frequently asked questions we get from people under this process. What are some common mistakes you see with topic selection? So, I mean, as Han mentioned, scope is pretty key. At this stage, there's a lot of hot button or interesting legal developments in the news, in law reviews, and you've got to keep in mind the space you have to write. You're going to have, if you're in print, 10 pages, single space to write out a full legal argument analyzing whatever evidence you've selected, whether that be case law, proposed legislation, existing code. It's going to be very hard to do an entire note covering the concept of the Second Amendment in 10 pages. The best advice I could give is just narrow, specify, pick what you want to write about. You'll get feedback from us saying probably it isn't narrow enough already. Go look through case law, pick out specific instances of decisions that you seem that feel interesting to you. You want to know more about, and you want to know why that happens. There's plenty of different interesting elements you can go with there. Not to be conflated with mistake, because I think Han also mentioned this. There is a wide variety of legal arguments you can make, both in US law and international law. We've had some excellent submissions and research on international law. Don't feel like you have to nail yourself down to this specific federal and or state law of the United States, but do make sure if you're making progress with a topic selection that there is an inherent legal issue and or set of evidence you can use beneath it. I would say instances involving political diplomatic relations can get pretty difficult. Remember that you've got to stay around that legal dynamic. Make sure if you begin writing or begin researching that you're trying to take more of a political and or advocacy stance on a specific issue or commentary and or stances from parties, that this has got to tie back to some form of legal discussion. So I would say either off topic or scope is probably the number one issues we run into during topic selection. Rolling along though, how can writers ensure that their argument is unique, even though they're choosing a commonly debated topic? I briefly mentioned it earlier there, but really try to narrow in, pick a specific angle and or element, a specific case decision. I know we're not hurting for Supreme Court decisions over the summer that caused a lot of, I would say, anxiety and or interest in those. You're not going to be hurting for material here. Really do try and angle your note or topic selected around one specific element to it. Do not try and collect or congregate multiple issues or angles to a legal thing. If you're picking on one specific provision of a code, that's often a great place to start your research, because as you research, you're going to find more and more evidence and more things that branch out and make it very difficult to keep things on topic. What's one topic that you haven't seen yet but would love to read about? I'm at a long one.
So kind of, and this is going to get a little bit into the next question. One of topic that I would personally love to read about is, well, more injustice, either racial, class, I think are two of the biggest injustice related legal topics that I have not seen a lot about. That is because by nature, it is very prevalent now or to have challenged any specific laws that are, obviously racially unjust. Now, kind of something that would be an interesting legal topic or a legal argument to take is that a lot of what we see regarding racial injustice now is systematic, not necessarily legal. But if there was a way for you to pivot a legal argument into discussing racial injustice, personally, that's something I really like to see. I've seen it done at in the Fordham Law Review, and I can't for the life of me remember the name of the article. It was so good though. I could not believe it. It was amazing. So kind of those more contentious issues that aren't covered as much, they don't necessarily receive as much spotlight exactly because they're difficult to talk about. I'm not going to promise that every article about racial injustice is necessarily going to be a good legal argument, but it would be a challenge that I'd like to see someone try to take on and address. That goes personally for me. Anybody else have any specific topics?
Go for it.
Personally, I think it'd be interesting to see some more comparative law analysis and stuff like that between different legal systems. I think we tend to be US oriented in our legal perspectives for obvious reasons, but I think it'd be a quite interesting note for someone to discuss like EU law or Canadian law or international agreements and the like. I think that sort of comparative analysis is something that we've been lacking recently. So if anyone has any interest in that, I would definitely like to talk about that.
Yeah, when we talk about contemporary issues facing the legal field, that obviously includes United States plus, you know, the other 215 or whatever countries that also exist in the world. So it's open to the entire world of law. You know, you might not have as much basis in a foreign legal system, but I managed to do it, and I did it with no basis of either the American legal system or of international law. Given it took me a year to actually do it, but it is possible. And it's something that we don't see a lot of. We definitely see a lot of domestic issues, but an expansion into international law or the laws of other countries specifically, there is a distinction there. There is international law, and then there is international law, as in not in the US. And those are two fields that we'd love to see more of.
Certainly. I'm gonna throw one last one out there because I have to shout out this writer who came just adjacent to it. But sadly, it was not inherently related enough to hit on her topic. I personally would love to see if a writer was interested in the use of COVID PPP loans and the ensuing financial equity or economic justice there. For those of you not aware, there has been a lot of scrutiny and public discussions over the allocation of public funding, whether it be loans, grants, or subsidies from the US government during the peak of the COVID pandemic, and how those intersect with either labor laws and or discrimination or quite inherently the current legal enforcement measures to prevent corruption and or abuse of those. So if someone is interested at all in that aspect, I'd love to see something about just COVID-related law. I find it fascinating. And it would be pretty related. Anyway, we've got to get moving here.
I got the next part. So too political or contentious. I'm just gonna say this very quickly. There are topics that are very political, very contentious. If you make a legal argument, no reason you can't talk about it. So we're gonna do very quick. I know I'm going to get you out of here, promise. But for the next 2 to 3-ish minutes, turn to the person to your left, right, back, up, down, diagonal. Find someone near you, and for 2 to 3 minutes, just talk about a topic, a legal topic, even a non-legal topic. You know, hey, don't go too crazy with that. Talk about something you might actually be able to write about. Give it 2 or 3 minutes of your most concentrated thought. Then we're going to cover up some wrap-up stuff and get y'all out of here. All right, so starting now, go. For the people online, I'm going to put you in breakout rooms. Wait, where's the breakout rooms? You do the breakout rooms.
I have an idea.
Oh wait, didn't you make them the hosts?
I made them co-hosts.
I don't know. You have 12 people, so make 3 breakouts. Tom and I are gonna do.
Right now.
After, so the events are next, and then we'll do it then. But just go through all your events. All right, everyone. Thank you. We heard a lot of talking, so we assume at least half of it was pretty good conversation. So thank you for your involvement with that. Now we're gonna just have Danielle go over a few of our events for this semester, a few deadlines, and then a quick questions.
Okay, so some events to look forward to in the upcoming semester. I think our main event will be Dinner with a Lawyer. Last year, this was a really successful event. We had many prestigious attorneys attend, who we had fruitful, insightful discussions and conversations with. So I would highly recommend taking note of this date and looking forward to more information in the upcoming weeks. We will also have a guest speaker event with Professor Cornell, touching on the topic of the Second Amendment, time and date to be determined. And we will also have a range of different pre-law events throughout the semester that we will make sure to inform everyone about, such as with career services, with our mentors possibly at Fordham Law School, and maybe with other undergraduate law reviews at universities throughout the nation. So we have a lot of exciting things coming up in the next few months.
Then just
Some important dates and deadlines. Next week, we have our first writers workshop, same place, same time. And then in 2 weeks, we'll have our second writers workshop, February 7th. And then a deadline to look out for is February 5th, which is a Sunday at 11:59 p.m. Your topic selection form will be due then.
all right. Quickly, we are gonna do totally open here, if anyone actually has them. Questions, comments, concerns.